Bieta Giorgis. Located in Ethiopia, this sunken marvel is often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world. Bieta Giorgis is one of 11 churches in Lalibela, Ethiopia, that was not built but excavated from a single piece of rock. Of the 11 churches, the best known and the most exquisite is Bieta Giorgis, or Church of St. George. St. George is the patron saint of Ethiopia. Bieta Giorgis is a cruciform church that rises up 40 meters from its platform below, and in its roof are 3 equilateral Greek crosses inside each other. Bieta Giorgis is located in northeast Africa in Lalibela, Ethiopia. Lalibela is a small mountainous town internationally renowned for its rock-hewn churches. Bieta Giorgis is positioned in its deep pit on a sloping rock terrace, with the church being accessed via an entrance tunnel and trench. Built into the volcanic rock, it was created by painstakingly breaking it away from a solid piece of rock with a hammer and chisel. Its cruciform shape follows through to the inside floor plan. The ancient builders likely started from the top and worked their way down, then moved inside to hollow out the center. The walls are wider at the base, cleverly disguising the stepped increase in wall thickness with the decorative banding. The entrance is west-facing, and the windows at the top allow for light and circulation and are small enough and high enough not to sacrifice structural stability. This building is and was an important holy Christian site of pilgrimage for faithful Ethiopian Orthodox Christians. Here you see the Greek cross shape of the church body and how it's reiterated onto the roof, which projects only slightly from the surrounding plain. The indigenous Ethiopians converted to Christianity in the 4th century until 960 AD, when a female leader named Gudit defeated the king and took control of the area. Gudit was believed to be of the native Jewish population and very anti-Christian, and is said to have destroyed many of the churches and Christian monuments. Gudit and her successors ruled until the 11th century. In the early 11th century, the Ethiopian throne was claimed by what would be known as the Zagwe dynasty, the most famous emperor being King Lalibela. When King Lalibela was born, he was swarmed with bees and did not die, which his mother took as a divine sign of destiny to the throne, which made him very unpopular with the royal family, forcing him into exile, during which he lived as a hermit and received divine instruction from Archangel Michael to build 10 churches. King Lalibela built the church after he was reproached by St. George in a dream for not having a house built for him. Legend has it that the construction of this building was supervised by St. George in person. Eventually, King Lalibela did take the throne after a pilgrimage to the holy city of Jerusalem. When he returned, he was asked by the priesthood to take the throne from his half-brother due to unhappiness with his diplomacy with the Vatican papacy and fear that the Roman Church would interfere with the Ethiopian Church. A political reason as to why this was built is that shortly after King Lalibela took the throne, Muslim leaders of Syria and Egypt, Saladin, had defeated the European Crusaders and took control of Jerusalem, which would make pilgrimages increasingly difficult for Christians, which is why he decided to build the visions into churches. The river was renamed Jordan, and he commissioned the building of rock-hewn churches that were intended to be a symbolic representation of the Holy City, a New Jerusalem for Christians to visit in safety. To this day, the churches are still places of pilgrimages, especially at Christmas and at Epiphany, when tens of thousands of people gather at Lalibela, with monks chanting, drums beating, and worshippers slowly dancing. This structure is truly fascinating. It certainly raises a lot of questions, including why it would be built in the ground as it was. The more that is learned about this outstanding building, the more questions are raised, making it a fantastic topic of research. The legends that attribute divine aid into making this monolith seem to be needed to wrap one's head around how such a building could be constructed. Legend has it that angels would work at night. Other legends include Templar knights, who would take the night shift, and there are even theories of alien intervention. These theories are very interesting, but ultimately, this was built by Ethiopian humans with a hammer and chisel. The visible chisel marks prove it, and there is historical precedent of this type of construction found on other small monuments in Ethiopia's Tigray region to the north. It is interesting that King Lalibela would have the audacity to recreate Jerusalem and even rewrite the Bible to include that heavenly graces would be bestowed on those who visit it. This is likely part of why the church is so heavily visited. A third of all tourism to this church is by Ethiopians. The area of Lalibela is truly a faithful place. Faithful Ethiopians are inspired to make faithful pilgrimages, or possibly do so out of a sense of duty to obey God's call, based on biblical readings. Of the 10,000 people who live there, 1,000 are priests. The other two-thirds of the tourism to this church is by tourists seeking to experience this feat of architecture. Sadly, tourism is taking its toll on all the churches. The heavy traffic in the churches are damaging the murals and reliefs inside, and some are no longer recognizable. A visit to this church, as well as all the surrounding rock-hewn churches, would be an experience indeed. The disorientation of the tunnels and the mystery of the local culture would be an awesome adventure. It is no surprise that UNESCO listed as a World Heritage Site and ranks the Ethiopian churches as the 8th most incredible historical site in the world due to the amazing feat of carving with such precision such a stunning building into a single rock so long ago.